Welcome to the Deep Dive. We always love getting recommendations from you guys about topics to cover, and today we're diving into some really interesting stuff you sent us about the ninth hour and what it means in Christian history.
Yeah, that
This
is
is one that I feel like a lot of our listeners might have heard of, but maybe don't fully grasp all the nuances and the implications.
absolutely. And what really got me fascinated with this idea of the ninth hour is how,
Yeah.
you know, it's just a single hour, but it holds so much weight
Yeah.
in Christian thought and
Yeah.
theology and tradition. We'll be looking at not just the actual events, but also how the meaning of the ninth hour
Hmm.
kind of resonates with Christian faith and even how it can apply to people's personal journeys.
I like that. So before we get too far, let's just start with the basics.
Sure.
When we're talking about the ninth hour in this context, what exactly are we referring to?
Well, we're talking about a very specific time, 3 p.m., the hour when Jesus died on the cross, according to the Gospels. And I think just picturing this scene, Jesus has been hanging on the cross for 3 hours,
Wow.
from noon to 3 p.m., enduring incredible suffering.
Yeah, 3 hours. It's not just a quick thing. It really makes you think about the gravity of
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah.
So why is that specific hour, 3 p.m., the ninth hour, considered so significant?
Well, it's really seen as this turning point, this moment of separation. At
Mhm.
that hour, Jesus's human body dies,
Okay.
separated from his divine spirit. And this idea of separation is super important because according to Christian theology, sin had to be punished within humanity.
Okay.
And Jesus' divinity, by its nature, couldn't die. It's an interesting concept.
It is, and it makes me think about something I've always kind of wondered about.
Yeah.
When Jesus is on the cross and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
That's such a powerful statement, and I'm wondering, does that relate to this idea of separation?
Exactly. You've hit on a key point here.
Yeah.
That cry from the cross is often seen as the ultimate expression of that separation between Jesus' humanity and his divinity.
Wow.
But the question then becomes, why was this separation necessary?
Yeah.
Well, we have to think about it this way. If Jesus had borne the sin of the world in his divinity,
Right.
there wouldn't be salvation for humanity because his divinity couldn't die and therefore couldn't conquer death.
I see. So in a way, that separation was kind of the key
Yes.
to overcoming death.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reframes that whole moment for me.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned deliverance earlier.
Right.
And I'm wondering, how does that fit into the whole picture of the ninth hour?
It's important to remember that the ninth hour isn't just about death and separation. It's also this moment of God's intervention and power. One of the sources you shared talks about the story of Peter and John
Oh, right.
healing the paralytic man, which happened at the ninth hour, the traditional hour of prayer.
Yes, I remember that from Acts.
Yeah,
It's pretty remarkable how the timing of that lines up with this hour.
absolutely. And the fact that it happens at the hour of prayer adds another layer of meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of suggests that the ninth hour can be this time when divine power is really present, when you can have these unexpected changes and,
Right.
and even miracles.
So it's both profound loss, but
Mhm.
also incredible hope.
Yeah.
It seems like this hour is about so much more than just this
Yeah.
one historical event.
You're right. The ninth hour isn't just a story from the past. It's also this
Yeah.
powerful model for personal transformation and renewal.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing those times in our lives when we might be called to let go of the old and embrace the new.
That's interesting. So what would you say is like the biggest takeaway for us as individuals reflecting on the ninth hour?
What I find so fascinating is how the ninth hour is this reflection of a truth that I think we all kind of struggle with, which is the need to embrace change even when it's difficult.
Mhm.
Just like Jesus willingly surrendered to his fate, we too are invited to surrender to a power greater than ourselves and embrace the possibility of change and transformation.
That's a powerful idea. But I think this idea of transformation, this dying to ourselves,
Yeah.
can be kind of daunting. What would you say to someone who's like struggling with that concept?
Transformation is rarely easy. It's challenging. It's marked by uncertainty and discomfort.
Right.
But if we can see the ninth hour as the symbol of our willingness to let go of things that no longer serve us, our fear, negativity, limiting beliefs, then we open ourselves up to some amazing possibilities for growth and joy.
So it's not about being passive or resigned,
Yeah.
but it's about making a choice
Yes.
to take a new path even when it's hard.
Exactly. It's about that leap of faith, trusting that even though we don't always see the path ahead,
Right.
there's a greater force guiding us toward our highest good.
That's a really powerful message of hope and resilience.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about how love plays into all of this.
Yeah.
We've talked about sacrifice, deliverance, but it seems like love is also a big part of the ninth hour.
It definitely is. Love is really at the very heart of this story.
Okay.
Jesus' death at the ninth hour is seen as the ultimate example of love in action. Remember that verse from John 15:13. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
Right.
So his willingness to sacrifice himself to endure unimaginable suffering
Yeah.
for the sake of love, that just shows the depth of his compassion and the power of selfless love.
And it makes you kind of think about how you're showing love in your own life. It's a
Yeah.
good reminder that it's not just a feeling.
Right.
It's an action.
Absolutely.
That's choice.
A choice we make every single day.
Wow. So maybe that choice, that commitment to love
Mm-hmm.
can be our own little ninth hour moment.
It absolutely can. It's about seeing that divine spark in everyone we encounter
Right.
and choosing to act with kindness and compassion and understanding, even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard. I think that's a really important point.
Right.
But, we've been talking a lot about this from a personal perspective. I'm curious about the broader context of the ninth hour in Christian history. Why has it been such a big deal for so many centuries?
Well, the ninth hour holds a special place in Christian history because it really encapsulates the core beliefs of the faith:
Okay.
sacrifice, redemption, the triumph of love over death. It's a story that's resonated with believers for generations, offering comfort in times of suffering
Right.
and hope for a life beyond this earthly one.
It's almost like a glimpse into the heart
Yeah,
of the Christian message, a
exactly.
reminder of the power of faith and the legacy of Jesus' sacrifice.
And that legacy continues to inspire people, offering a guide for how we can live our lives with greater purpose and meaning and love.
So the ninth hour isn't just a historical event or a theological concept. It's an active story that continues to inform how we see ourselves in our relationship with God
Yeah.
and our place in the world.
And that's what makes it so compelling, It's a story that invites us to reflect on our lives, our choices, and our potential for transformation.
It's like a call to action to take these lessons of the ninth hour
Yeah.
and use them to live our lives in a way that honors the sacrifice and the love and the hope that it represents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've covered so much already.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation.
It has.
But I'm excited to dive even deeper into what this all means for us.
Yeah.
So how can we actually apply these concepts to our everyday lives?
That's where the magic happens. In part 2, we'll explore how the ninth hour can lead us to a deeper sense of self-awareness and resilience,
Ooh, I like it.
and even a stronger connection to our inner wisdom.
I can't wait.
It's going to be good.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more on the ninth hour. As we're exploring this whole idea of the ninth hour, what keeps coming to mind for me is how it's kind of like a microcosm of the entire Christian story.
Yeah, it's amazing how the ninth hour really captures that tension between these seemingly opposite forces, suffering and hope, darkness, and light, death, and resurrection.
Yeah.
It's almost like the darkest moment holds the seed of redemption and new life.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. It's like this inherent paradox within the ninth hour, this reminder that even when things are tough, there's always potential for something new to come out of it.
And that potential for new life or resurrection, that's at the very core of the Christian faith.
Right.
It's what gives us hope when we face our own mortality and struggles, our own ninth hour moments, you could say.
I love that, our own ninth hour moments, because really, we all have those, right? Those times when we feel lost, when we're facing a huge challenge or decision, when we're forced to confront our own limitations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone experiences those times of darkness and uncertainty. And in those moments, it's helpful to remember those lessons of the ninth hour, to remember that love can be stronger than fear, even in the darkest times, that surrendering can lead to liberation, and that there's something bigger than ourselves that we can tap into.
So it's like a roadmap for getting through those tough times. But how do we actually tap into that power? How do we apply the lessons of the ninth hour to our daily lives? Like, seriously, how do you embody that spirit of surrender and resilience on a Monday morning when you're staring down a mountain of emails and deadlines?
Well, it all starts with awareness, being mindful of those choices that we make throughout the day. Are we picking love over fear when we interact with others? Are we acting with compassion and understanding? Are we willing to step outside our comfort zones and embrace the unknown?
So it's not always about these grand gestures or being a hero.
Yeah.
It's about those little everyday choices that reflect the ninth hour things, that embody love, Courage, a willingness to surrender to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
Yeah.
And remembering that even in the mundane, the ordinary stuff, amazing things can still happen.
I like that, finding the sacred in the everyday. But let's be real. We're human. We mess up. We get caught up in the craziness of life. We forget about the ninth hour and what it means.
Hmm.
What happens then? What happens when we fall short?
That's where grace comes in. The ninth hour reminds us of God's endless mercy and forgiveness.
Okay.
It's a reminder that no matter how many times we stumble, we're always welcome back. We're always worthy of love and redemption.
That's reassuring because we all need a little grace sometimes.
Yeah.
We need that reminder that it's okay to not be perfect all the time, that we're loved and accepted as we are.
And that acceptance, that unconditional love is what gives us the freedom to be the best versions of ourselves.
Right.
It's what empowers us to face life's challenges with courage and hope.
It's like the ninth hour is inviting us to step into our own power, to embrace our potential, but to do it with humility and grace.
Yes.
To recognize that we're not in control, but we can surrender to something greater.
You got it. It's about finding that sweet spot between effort and surrender, between taking action and accepting things. And that balance looks different for everybody. So what resonates with you about this idea of balance?
What really strikes me is that it's not about being passive or giving up. It's realizing that there's a power bigger than us at work in the universe, and we can choose to align ourselves with that power. It's trusting the process, even when it doesn't make sense.
I love that. And I think that trust, that willingness to surrender, that's crucial for going through those ninth hour moments in our lives. When we can let go of our need to control everything, when we can accept the uncertainty of life, that's when we open ourselves up to a whole new world of possibility.
It's like creating the space for miracles to happen. But how do we cultivate that trust and surrender? Especially when the world around us is telling us to strive, to achieve, to be in control all the time.
It begins, I think, with connecting more deeply with our inner selves, with that quiet voice inside that guides us toward what's best for us. And that can look like a lot of things. Prayer, meditation, spending time in nature, writing in a journal, anything that helps us quiet the noise of the world and listen to our own inner wisdom. Have you ever experienced that kind of connection in your life?
Totally. For me, spending time in nature is like hitting the reset button. It helps me clear my head, connect with something larger than myself, and listen to that inner voice that gets lost in the busyness of daily life.
It's about creating that space for the divine to speak to us, to guide us, to show us the way. And when we do that, when we open ourselves up to that possibility, incredible things can happen.
So it's not about forcing things or trying to control the outcome. It's about trusting the process, trusting the wizards of the universe, and allowing ourselves to be led. But I got to ask, does faith play a role in this? Do we have to believe to experience the transforming power of the ninth hour?
That's a great question, and one that's definitely started a lot of conversations over the years. At its heart, I think faith is about trust.
Okay.
Trust in something larger than ourselves, whether we call it God, the universe, or simply the inherent goodness of life.
So it's not necessarily about following a specific set of beliefs.
Right.
It's more about cultivating that sense of trust and openness to the unknown.
Exactly. It's about accepting that we don't have all the answers, that life has a mystery to it that we can't fully understand, and that's okay. In fact, it's in that mystery and surrendering to the unknown that we often find our greatest strength and resilience.
It's like the ninth hour invites us to let go of control, embrace uncertainty, and trust that even when we don't see the path, there's a greater force guiding us.
Yeah.
But how does that idea of surrender fit with our responsibility to act in the world?
That's a good point. It's not about just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It's about finding that balance between surrendering to what is and taking inspired action when it feels right.
Okay.
We can surrender to the big picture, the flow of life, while still actively participating in creating the world we want.
Because like we're partners with the universe.
Yeah.
Surrendering to the greater plan while using our own gifts and talents to make things better.
Precisely. It's about understanding that we're not separate from the divine. We're a part of it. And that's empowering because it means we each have a role to play in the story of creation.
This conversation has really changed how I think about the ninth hour. It's so much more than just a historical event. It's a powerful way to think about approaching life with more courage, compassion, and willingness to let go and trust in something bigger.
And it's a reminder that transformation isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing journey.
Right.
It's about showing up every day and choosing love even when it's tough. It's about trusting the path even when you can't see where it leads. And it's about knowing we're all in this together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about this idea of collective transformation, working together to create a better world. How does that connect to the ninth hour?
That's a fantastic question, and it takes us to the very heart of what it means to live a life inspired by the ninth hour.
As we're getting into this idea of collective transformation, I'm wondering if maybe by focusing on the ninth hour as this big historical event, we're missing out on the smaller, everyday ways it can show up in our lives.
It's easy to get caught up in the big story and forget about its everyday presence. It's important to remember that the spirit of the ninth hour can be expressed in tons of small but meaningful ways.
Yeah, it's not always about these huge gestures or heroic sacrifices. It can be about simply choosing to be kind instead of judging, offering help to someone who needs it, or just listening to a friend who's having a hard time.
Exactly. Those little acts of compassion and service, those moments when we choose to put others first, those can be our own personal ninth hour moments.
It's like we're weaving this tapestry of love and compassion one thread at a time,
Yes.
one act at a time, and creating a ripple effect that goes way beyond just ourselves.
And those ripples, they can change not just our own lives, but the lives of people around us. It's
Hmm.
about realizing we're all connected, that even the smallest things we do can make a difference.
So instead of waiting for that one big chance to prove ourselves
Mhm.
or make a big impact, we can live the spirit of the ninth hour in every interaction, in every choice we make.
Absolutely. It's about seeing that spark of the divine in everyone we meet and treating each other with the respect and dignity that we all deserve.
So we've talked about personal transformation and collective transformation, but how do those two things actually come together? How can our individual ninth hour moments contribute to a bigger societal shift toward more compassion and understanding?
That's a really powerful question, and I think it goes to the core of what it means to live a life inspired by the ninth hour. You see, our individual acts of love and service, they don't happen in isolation. They create a ripple effect that spreads out, affecting our families, our communities, and ultimately the whole world.
It's like we're all drops in the ocean, and when we come together, we can create a wave of change.
That's it. And when enough people choose to embrace the spirit of the ninth hour, to choose love over fear, compassion over judgment, forgiveness over resentment, we create this collective force that can transform society from within.
So it's not just about our own growth, but about being part of something bigger.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we're all part of something much greater than ourselves and that we have this responsibility to contribute to a better world.
But trying to create a better world can feel overwhelming, especially with all the negativity and division we see.
Yeah.
How can we stay hopeful and inspired when things are so challenging?
I think the ninth hour gives us something really powerful to combat that despair. It reminds us that even when things are darkest, love can still win over hate, and that hope can come from the most unexpected places.
It's like a light in the darkness,
Yes.
reminding us that we're not alone and that together we can overcome anything.
And that's such an important message for everyone right now. It's a message that can empower us to step up, to speak out against injustice, to help those in need, and to build a more loving, compassionate, and just world for everyone.
It's about remembering that we always have the power to choose love
Yes.
and that those choices can change the world.
Beautifully put. It's about embracing the ninth hour, not just as a historical event, but as a way of life,
Yeah.
a way of being that's rooted in love, compassion, and a deep connection to something greater than ourselves.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I have a totally new understanding of the ninth hour and how it applies to us today.
It's been a privilege exploring this with you. The ninth hour is a story that keeps unfolding,
Yeah.
giving us new insights and inspiration with each generation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a question. How will you bring the spirit of the ninth hour into your life today?
Will you choose love over fear?
Will you choose compassion over judgment, forgiveness over resentment?
Will you be that light in the darkness, that source of hope for others?
Remember, even the smallest acts of kindness can change the world.
They really can.
Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey. We'll be back soon with more deep dives into fascinating topics. Until then, keep seeking, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.